Hey everybody, welcome to Movie Night at the Builders Club. We're talking about war films today with our guest, Lee Peterson.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
All right, let's get right in it. One thing I've read about war and conflict from veterans, let's be clear, none of us are veterans, so we have movies and we have
Point
friends
A.
or, books or whatever, but not direct experience.
We never did it. Point A.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's most people, right?
Yeah.
But, same thing, veterans go over there and they'll speak about how much time you just spend waiting around. Okay, we'll just lift weights or whatever, and nothing happens.
Or doing drills maybe.
Whatever it is, yeah. And then suddenly it's just bam, you're in the cooker.
Mm-hmm.
My dad told me he learned how to sleep standing up.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. He'd get put on guard duty for like 6 hours in the middle of the night. And say, it's Peterson, it's your turn. Get out there, figure it out. After about 3 hours, start dozing off. And next thing you know, it's like 2 hours later. And you're still standing there. I guess there's some part of your body that just locks in.
Don't like horses do that? It's like a horse.
Yeah,
sleeps.
horses do that.
Wow.
So given this is something we don't understand, it's sort of like refracted, I guess. But what makes like the top of your guys' lists of diving into that experience of? Here's a hint of one of mine, which I'm sure is one of yours, of that horror. The horror.
Well, I would say maybe because we're talking about film, it's the craftsmanship of filmmaking that would kind of steer the answer to that question, right?
Yeah.
I think that helps me answer that question. It's like maybe there's a better film out there or better documentaries that have cover it in a certain way, but I'm not going to choose it just because it's covering a good topic. I'm choosing a war film based on its artistic effect on me, the emotional effect on me, based on the skills of the craft people behind the scenes that made it, make it land.
And acting.
Yes, script.
They're
score,
the craft people as well.
Yeah.
It's really true.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to say. I can't say with any veracity of like what's realistic or not, but some movies feel a lot more realistic than others.
Saving Private Ryan.
Right. Yeah, you can kind of sense that. I think that there's something to be said that in that space of war, that all the shackles are off. Like there's no rules really. I mean, just like I watched an interview of a veteran talking about. He was reviewing some scenes from the Thin Red Line when they take that bunker on the top of the hill. And he was saying that's exactly how it is. It's just chaos. You might get shot, you might not. Right. And I think we love that drama and like the rules of society don't apply. We can step into that space safely from a distance, the fly on the wall. And I think that's, part of the enjoyment. It's just, edge of your seat chaos.
For me, it's like a two-sided coin. Like you're saying, I mean, a fundamental is the craftsmanship. It's a good director, it's good actors. It's a good story. Like is there a story that makes a lot of sense to it? But I have a tendency to really like the ethereal ones, like A Thin Red Line. I love that movie. The trees and the guy's poetry throughout the whole thing, like voiceover poetry. And the next thing you know, they're charging up a hill with savagery, and the Japanese are basically wiped out, burned out from bombardment and stuff like that. And it's just horrific. But then they go back to the jungle and it's swaying and there's people and they're enjoying their lives and little babies and stuff like that. That's really cool. Another one like that for me is Apocalypse Now, where, that it's based on the Heart of Darkness. And so he has a mission, right? His mission is to go all the way up the river to find somebody and to kill him. And so you go along with him on the mission. And through voiceover, you understand, like, how he feels about it and, like, what he understands about this guy's dossier and on and on and on. But it's still very ethereal, like the one battle scene at Polandong or whatever it is. And I mean, it's hard to imagine that would actually happen. And then the helicopter comes down and the three girls start dancing around. Do you remember that part?
Wait, is that Apocalypse Now or Thin Red Line?
Apocalypse Now.
Oh yeah,
Apocalypse Now.
okay, yeah.
They
right,
had the
right.
Playboy bunnies.
Right,
Playboy
right.
bunnies are dancing around with 6 guns and pointing at them, and then the soldiers rush the stages, you
Yeah.
might imagine.
Yeah, yeah. The chaos from that too.
Yeah. But then the realistic ones are good too, like 1917 and All Quiet on the Western Front, the one that just came out
Both of
from
them,
the
really.
German side.
The old
Wow.
old one's really good too. That was on AFI's top 100 films of the 20th century list for a reason, I think. I like how they did justice to that in the message, but the plot was different, right? I mean, it's different from the original. It's different from the book. A lot of people complained about that. But actually, it's like, to me, that's the better way to redo something. Why do it just shot for shot, right? I mean, take it somewhere new, but convey the same message. Yeah.
Well, you can anyway. That's a screenplay, for the most part, with executives, movie executives. They're only going to give you so much money to get something done, unless you're Francis Ford Coppola or somebody like Martin Scorsese. Then you get endless budget. So you got X amount of money to get X amount done, and then you have to tell a story like that, which is a long book, into an hour and a half, 2 hours. Go get it done. So there's a lot that gets edited, a lot that gets cut, and some central points.
I would like to choose something that's more closer to my heart. I think I'm going to choose Hunt for Red October, because it's like it's a rare submarine movie, because they're hard to do well.
Yeah.
And it captures. I mean, there is some history with the book, that it was the Tom Clancy book that basically launched his career and everything. But I just like it for the fact that it is more of an action movie, but like a thinking man's action movie from an older time.
Nobody's knifing anybody.
Yeah, yeah, and yet
It's a cat and mouse.
Yeah, it's a cat and mouse across entire oceans, and there's a bit of Cold War intrigue in there that I thought was really cool. But in terms of craftsmanship, I think it just represents a good yarn, and it's like a well packaged Hollywood formula machine of an earlier time, and it's just done so well. And the craft is there, the acting is there. Sean Connery is there as a Russian, and it still works. So it has a lot of this.
Alec Baldwin.
Yes, the star power of that, and
How about the claustrophobia, man? That's
yeah.
It takes a special kind of person to be like, yeah, I'm going to live in this submarine in the depths of the ocean and at constant threat of explosion or implosion.
Right,
even.
right.
If the ship fails somehow,
Bye bye. Yeah.
You're gone.
Yeah.
See also the Titanic voyage.
Yeah.
Pretty crappy way to go, too, by the way.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah.
So they do them and Das Boot, top submarine movies that I'm aware of, and they really capture that. It's like almost like a character, a constant. It's like a presence in the movie, like the scenery was, and say There Will Be Blood, or what was it? No Country for Old Men.
Right. The tin can feeling of being in something, all that pressure underwater, and no one can see anything, and you're just like hearing pings,
creaks, and
it still kind of goes back to the unimaginable.
Yeah,
like that's really unimaginable to be in a submarine space where everything's like shoulder to shoulder, and
but that implies that you want to try to imagine. I don't even want to think about that. That sounds terrible. So let's watch the movie about it.
I don't want to think about World War I either, ever.
Yeah, that's a whole
Yeah.
Each of the wars have their own different horrors.
Yeah.
Right? And World War I, trenches.
Yeah, and the Pacific end of World War II was
horrible, yeah.
Yeah, because the other end, the European end, was just like the same terrain as here. So you can picture somebody going around, walking through a forest, and
And the little villages, a lot like Somerset here, little European, villages dotting the countryside. Not too different.
I read a book on Guadalcanal, and that was our first encounter with the Japanese, and man to man kind of combat, and it was the first time that they understood that they didn't care if they died, that it was actually an honor for them to die.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know that. So they thought, well, we're going to take these guys as prisoners. That wasn't going to happen.
That was Battle of Guadalcanal is where Thin Red Line is set.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would choose 1917 simply because I'm always a fan of one takes, just those long shots. And there's actually, they really cleverly edit it so it looks like it's all one take, but I think there's actually 3 or 4 long shots. But just the amount of sheer like willpower and talent it takes to pull that off, and the immersion that you get from that movie as you literally follow them through the whole scene. It's the continuity creates immersion, and I love that. And I love that there's these like little scenes of tenderness amidst the chaos when he just happens to have like a canteen full of milk and there's a baby crying, is still nursing, and then when he emerges from that river after that scene, he just stands up and he walks, he hears singing, and there's the guy singing an old folk song, an old British folk song. Remember that? Just beautiful voice. It's like
a religious song, I think.
Yeah. And that was on the Cold Mountain soundtrack too. Jack White played it. I forget what it's called. But good song. But I mean, just these little moments of beauty. I think that Thin Red Line does that really well. But it's not just all shoot 'em up and chaos. Like there's this human tenderness spark in these movies that gives them a lot more depth.
See, I found the woman in the basement with the baby part to be kind of corny or fake. Like, are you kidding me? I just found it unrealistic.
It's not, to me, it wasn't just tenderness. It's like there is a purpose to all of this. Because the whole rest of the movie was war and chaos and people just dying left and right. The airplane falls out of the sky and kills the guy, or that pilot they try to save kills the guy, and it's like craziness. But then in that scene, he just happens to have the milk, and this is the kind of thing where it felt real to me, different than your take, I guess. But it felt real to me because it's such a crazy synchronicity. Like, oh, he just happens to have milk. Here's this baby who needs milk, and stuff like that happens in life, and it's unbelievable, if not for being true.
Well, on that note, you just reminded me of something that is unbelievable but true, is like the whole movie of Dunkirk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of that whole surreal situation that all these troops are stranded on the beach, right? And I haven't seen it in a while, but I do remember that feeling of like real life war is so surreal. It could be a movie, but it's not a movie. It really happened.
It's unimaginable.
It's so back to what you were saying about the
Yeah.
unimaginability of war, but it's true. It's truer than fiction, even.
Well, even the thing about Dunkirk, of course, is that the Germans had them surrounded, and
That was the one
forced
where-
them in a corner and didn't finish them off.
Wasn't that where Hitler, nobody wanted to wake him up?
Yeah, nobody wanted
'Cause
to
he's
wake
all-
him up. So
He was all drugged up and sped up.
the
night
generals
before.
are, let's go in and take them. And
They could've,
they're
yeah.
just sitting there on the beach. Let's go in there and take them. And they couldn't wake Hitler up, or
I
he
thought they
didn't
didn't
want to
want to, yeah, 'cause
answer,
he's all-
or he was having breakfast or something like that.
And that literally was why they.
So that's how they
wow.
got out.
That's where that's potentially where that phrase "blitzed" came from, because Hitler. I mean, you watch some of those videos, like in the Munich Olympics, and he's sitting there in a chair, he's rocking back and forth, and he's, rubbing his leg and gritting his teeth, and I'm like, I've seen that before.
Drug addiction, yeah.
It's on
Yeah.
some speed or something like crazy. And I think that he was kind of like hungover and grumpy in the morning. and
Propofol.
Nobody wanted
They
to
gave him some propofol.
wake him up. So, but that was like a miracle story, yeah, Dunkirk. Crazy.
Yeah.
Do you have a number one, you'd say, if you had to pick one?
I had to pick one. It would be, I think, Thin Red Line.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely
I could watch it
up there, top 3.
over and over again.
Those scenes with that has that tenderness too, but it's almost all takes place outside of the warfare. So they're like you said, the voiceover poetry, and Jim Caviezel. I'd never heard of him before that movie, but I think he was great in that, and he just did The Sound of Freedom. That was kind of a underground breakthrough.
So
I
in
haven't
Thin
seen
Red
it.
Line, there's a business lesson in there as well. And I think you and I have talked about this
Yeah,
before.
Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte. So, they're attacking the bunker, and the Marines are getting cut to pieces. And the lieutenant doesn't want to send his men up there anymore because they're going to get cut to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nick Nolte goes, God damn it, get your men up there on the walkie-talkie or whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I'm not going to do it. And he goes, you're going to regret this. I'm going to be right there. So Nick Nolte comes down and he goes, I don't give a damn. What you got to do, you're going to go. People are going to die. This is a war. You're going to send them up the hill.
Oh, he's frothing, yeah.
Spitting and frothing. And, he literally made them go up there, and they took the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, they took the hill. And to me, there was a business lesson there that the tenacity, it's easy to say, like, oh, wow, that's going to be too hard. It's going to be too hard to do. Like, I'm not sure that I can do it, that I can talk people into doing it. But the tenacity to say, damn it, it seems impossible, but we're gonna get it done. You can see it even in the Steve Jobs movie. He was the same way. You can't tell me this computer doesn't work. It's gonna work. When I go out there on that stage, it's gonna work. And
tenacity. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in spite of the fact, in war movies, tenacity, in spite of the fact that a lot of bad things are going to happen.
And they do. They do. A lot of those characters don't make it. I want to point out that that's a Terrence Malick film, and for anybody listening, he's put out a lot of high-quality movies. Not a lot, but starting with Badlands, Days of Heaven. What else? We got, I haven't seen Ace of Cups, but Tree of Life, of course.
New World.
New World, the Colin Farrell.
Pocahontas.
And he actually, he's very reclusive, and he used to teach philosophy at Harvard. So when you see his movies, it makes sense. It's like, this is a war movie according to a philosopher.
Right.
And it's really embedded in all of his movies, really.
Right.
The themes of like nature and nurture and human violence, and how is that really exceptional from what nature is. And there's some like deep questions in there that are really beautiful.
Wow.
In all of his movies, really.
So did you know that it came from a 1962 novel by James Jones called The Thin Red Line?
I did not know that.
And I guess
all I know about is the thin blue line. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But The Thin Red Line, somebody else made a movie. There was a first one, I think.
You mean a black and white
yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I think so.
Huh.
But it was definitely a novel by a guy named James Jones, who probably got $5,000, for it. And
Wow.
we're still watching a movie.
All right. Well, I think that's probably a good wrap on that topic.
Right.
So we'll catch y'all later.